Oh boy, it's Halloween. Time to read some Sonic creepypasta for y'all. It was yet another dark and stormy night. Blimey, everyone was thinking. But Mobius has had a real run of bad weather lately. The thunder was so loud that the noise shattered the metal remains of junked robots in Scrap Brain Zone. Oh, alright, it wasn't really that loud. Exaggerating like this is called poetic license, or lying to everyone else. But it was still seriously noisy. When bolts of lightning hit the ground, which they did constantly, they set fire to everything in a 5-kilometer radius. Or they would have if there had also been raindrops the size of enormous inflated beach balls, which splattered to the ground and extinguished the flames as soon as they took hold. The owls had long ago decided to migrate south for the winter, leaving behind only the few trees which hadn't pulled up their roots and done the same. Only a person who should have been certified as dangerously insane by the Mobius Psychiatric Institute for Total Nutters would even dream about setting foot outside on a night like this. Except for two radically cool superheroes, of course. Phew, Sonic. The line between dangerously insane, as defined by the Mobius Psychiatric Institute for Total Nutters, being a superhero is a very fine one, Tails pondered as he dodged another enormous raindrop. Was that? Inquired a very wet and miserable Hedgehog. Porker Lewis's umbrella had been blown inside out and was ruined within a few seconds of Sonic holding it over his head, and now his spines were lying limply on his back and his sneakers were sodden. It was a serious bomber. Nothing, Tails sighed. Suddenly, above the noise of the thunder and lightning, the night was disturbed by a plaintive and terrible cry. It went plaintively. Tails looked at Sonic with real fear in his eyes, and he gripped the tiny fragment of sodden garlic pizza firmly in his paws. By now, what with all the rain, the pizza had turned into a disgusting mush and it squeezed out through his paws onto the ground. There aren't any wolves in Scrap Brain Zone, Sonic sniffed derisively. Everyone knows that. The cry came again, this time much nearer. Do you want to tell them that? Tails said, shrinking back in fear. Look, I know a bit about wolves. I am a fox after all. They're like us, only much, much bigger. And I know for a fact that they eat hedgehogs. No, they don't. They eat pizza like everyone else does. Well, alright. So I'm not certain that they eat hedgehogs, Tails said defensively. He had felt scared and a bit ashamed of being the only one who was frightened, so he'd hoped to make Sonic feel a bit like he did. But I don't think they eat pizza either. And they do have really big jaws, dripping with drool, and they're big enough to rip. Okay, like, chill out, Sonic snapped. That's enough. It's probably just a noise Robotnik is have played over some loudspeakers on the castle walls or something. Suddenly there was a break in the black clouds scudding across the sky, and they could see a yellow full moon glaring balefully down at them. They heard the wailing sound again, this time much, much louder and much, much closer. Lightning crackled and the scene was suddenly illuminated in garish blue. Only a few meters away from the pair stood a totally humongously huge wolf. Its fur was grey and flecked with silver, and it had an enormous pair of jaws. They were wide open, and it licked its lips as it looked at Tails and Sonic. It had that look that wolves only have when they haven't eaten for a long time, and when they've just seen something really, really juicy. But the weirdest thing about it was that it had 2 tails. Tails hid behind Sonic and peered out over his shoulder, his eyes as wide as a pair of family-sized deep pan pizzas. Yikes, he whimpered. What are we gonna do? I said chill out, Sonic replied nervously. Maybe we can talk to it. Shouting to make himself heard to the wolf over the sound of thunder and lightning, he yelled out, like, hi there, wolf dude, which way to the castle? Yum yum, replied the wolf, licking its lips and padding a bit closer to them. It sniffed the air hopefully. Oh, like, you don't want to eat us, Sonic said as he backed away a little. I mean, I'm covered in really grody spines. They'd stick in your throat. And my buddy here, well, he's a fox, so eating him would almost be cannibalism, you know? That's just really gross, man. We saw this little girl in a red cloak and hood a bit further down the road, Tails lied. She was carrying a really neat basket of stuff, ever so good to eat. Sonic looked at him disapprovingly. I meant what was in the basket, not the little girl, of course, Tails said defensively. No, maybe her granny is edible. The wolf walked up to them and stuck a very wet snout into Sonic's chest. He looked vaguely disappointed. Now look, you're not playing fair, you know, the wolf said testily. You're supposed to run around screaming and terrified and all that kind of carry-on. Why? Sonic inquired. Because it's in the script, that's why. Okay, so I lied. This isn't just some random creepypasta I found online. This is actually a piece of real Sonic media, Sonic the Hedgehog in Castle Robotnik by Martin Adams. I pretty much made the whole video just because the idea that Sonic brings up cannibalism in the middle of an official Sonic book is kind of wild to me. That's pretty much the only thought process I had for this. Also, I don't know how to get more attention on this book series. All 6 books in the series are kind of crazy in different ways. I would highly recommend them if you have some time to burn.